Good morning everyone and welcome to our Ordinary Council meeting for March. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, the Liveable people, and also other traditional owners throughout the Southern Downs, the Camberwell, Yugarapul and Biggenwall peoples, and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and thank them for their continuing care for the country that we all enjoy. We start this morning with a prayer from Reverend Nancy.
Mayor, councillors and community, it's always good to be invited back. I always see it as a privilege to receive this and a bit of a miracle to get an invitation back after 11 years. So thank you for having me. So you meet today, you do so on the edge of Easter. As for Christians, we start with Holy Week this coming week. Palm Sunday is Sunday. And I don't know, perhaps if you approach this time of Easter as a person of faith, or people of faith, or a people of tradition, or perhaps people who just enjoy a long weekend, the good hot cross bun and some of that mountains of chocolate in our shops, the universal theme remains the same. Change, even if it's just your waistline. But Easter reminds us that hope can always rise again, and how much that is needed for our world right now. But it's not just inside the religious faith that we see this change and renewal signs during Easter. We also see it when we go outside. We see it in our autumn gardens after the relentless heat of the summer. We see it on our farming lands with the crops of sorghum, soya and sunflowers and others. We see the abundance of life around us. And we see it in our growing community, our growing diverse community. But we also see it in our local council agenda. Our local council work, government work, often feels like a little bit of an Easter story in a miniature. Some things we thought was done and finished comes back to life. Projects we thought dead and buried mysteriously reappear. And occasionally there's a miracle, and that's perhaps when the meeting ends earlier than planned. I hope for you today it's an early meeting. But however we look under the humour of this time, Easter invites us to imagine, to look again, that renewal and change is possible. That the work we do, often unseen, often unrecognisable, often very unglamorous, can bring about change in the communities we serve. And so as you meet and work through your agenda today, I trust you come with a spirit of openness, and kindness, and a willingness to come up with possibilities when others see problems. Let us pray. God of wisdom and renewal and change, as the council meet today, we pray for clarity in their discussions, respect in their disagreements, and goodwill in their decisions. For those who celebrate Easter, may this coming Holy Week bring hope and renewal. And for all of us, may the season remind us that new beginnings and change are always possible. Bless our communities, our leaders, and the people we serve. Guide us towards choices that bring life, strengthen connection, and build a future where we can all thrive and be proud of. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Nancy. I'm going to lead condolences today with a condolence to the former Councillor for Warwick City Council and Warwickshire Council for Doug Cutmore. Doug was born in Warwick and grew up on the family farm. He served as a councillor on Warwick City Council for 9 years and Warwickshire Council for 11 years, finishing in 2008. He was Deputy Mayor from 2000 to 2008. He was incredibly committed to local government and continued his interest up until his passing. He loved catching up with current councillors for a chat and always engaged with candidates prior to each election. In 2019, Doug was awarded an Order of Australia Medal for service to the community of Warwick. This was well-deserved recognition for his love of the community. He was a long-standing board member of Akuramak, serving more than 30 years, including over 2 decades as chair of the board. He also served as director of the Warwick Friendly Society, master of the Cunningham Masonic Lodge, and he was the chieftain of the Warwick Caledonian Society. He was a president and life member of the Warwick Thistle Pipe Band, and during his time with the band, he taught many children to play the bagpipes, passing on his talent to future generations. He performed at many weddings, funerals, and Highland dancing events, and was always happy to do so. Through his commitment to our community and his outstanding public service, Doug became an inspiration and mentor to many, and he will long be remembered. We extend our deepest sympathies and thoughts to Doug's wife Iris, his daughter Sharon, his sons Ian and Scott, and the rest of his family and friends. He will be fondly remembered and missed by many people across the region. Councillors, any more condolences? Councillor Petition?
Yes, I would like to acknowledge the life of Michael Kenny of Ballarat, a respected member of the community. Sincere condolences are extended to his family, friends, and all of those who had the privilege of knowing him. Michael's contributions to the Ballarat district will not be forgotten, and his memory will live on in the hearts of many. On behalf of Council, we offer our heartfelt sympathies to all affected.
Councillor Pigeon, any other condolences, councillors? No? Okay. Attendance and apologies. We have all in attendance, and no apologies. The reading and confirmation of minutes. We have a recommendation that the minutes of the Ordinary Council meeting held on Wednesday, 25 February 2026 be adopted. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor McDonald, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Pigeon, thank you. Any comments or questions, councillors? I have one to Councillor Richters. In the minutes for the last meeting, there's the letter that you tabled to the Minister. Do you have a response from the Minister that you would like to table today?
I do have a response, but I don't feel it needs to be tabled now.
Okay, is there anything in the response, do you think, that is relevant to Council or the LPMG that we might need to action?
I don't believe so. The response was fairly simple.
Okay, I'll just ask that if that's official council correspondence, that it just be registered through the system.
Has it not already?
You can follow that up. Thank you, Councillor Richters. Okay, all in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Moving on to item 5.1, we have a recommendation that Council receive the report. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor McDonald, and a seconder. Councillor Houslett, thank you. Any questions or comments, councillors? No? All in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Moving on to item 6, we have declarations of conflict of interest. Any councillors to declare today? Councillor Windle.
12.2.
2. Other councillors? No. Okay, Councillor Windle.
Just for the chair, of a declarable conflict of interest as president of the Apple and Grape Festival, as this matter relates to event funding policy which may affect that organisation. In the interest of transparency, I will leave the room.
Thank you, Councillor Windle. Okay. Moving on to item 7.
I'm going to declare a conflict of interest for the notice of motion 8.1, considering that there was a family member that put a submission into that scheme.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Pigeon. And will you be leaving the room?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else, councillors? Thank you. Okay. Moving on, we have no mayoral minute today, and that takes us to item 8.1. So, Councillor Pigeon. Okay. We have a notice of motion from Councillor Wantling. Councillor Wantling, you will move the motion. Yes, and do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Bartley, thank you. Okay, Councillor Windle.
Public submissions are a key part of the planning process and reflect the views of the community. Councillors need access to the information to make informed decisions, not just summaries. Access to submissions, including those not supported, and the reason why will provide a clearer understanding of community concerns. Providing access to what is submitted to the state government will ensure councillors are fully informed. This motion supports transparency and informed decision making with personal information able to be redacted where required.
Thank you, Councillor Windle. Councillor McDonald.
Through you, Mayor, question to Councillor Watling. Would you avail yourself of the opportunity as provided by the CEO to actually view the documents as on the 24th of February?
As you've seen in the document, what's written here, it actually isn't a whole lot. I actually asked for a summary of the ones that were rejected as well, and also the ones that went to state government, what actually went to state government. I was given yeah, definitely, but
So you did attend a meeting with the CEO in regards to viewing all the men?
no.
No. But it's saying that councils were advised that there was a copy that could be reviewed.
No, one of the officers just, after I put a notice of motion in that was rejected because the time that I put it in, one of the officers just explained that I could review them in the Mayor's office under instruction if I went there.
So why didn't you?
Because I want access to them. It's only to the submissions.
Okay, I think, yeah.
I can
So-
explain, it's fine. In that, as you can see, what's written here by the officers, I'll just bring it up. Under the officers' comments, a council request was lodged by Councillor Wantling on the 8th of December 2025, requesting submissions that were received to help him make an informed decision. Councillor was advised on the 24th of February 2026 that a copy of all submissions received with the identifying information redacted had been collated and councillors could view the redacted submission in the CEO's office. That is not my motion, what I'm asking here today.
But it would appear, where is the problem then?
Exactly what I said.
Yes. Yes, okay, so we've had the question, so you have not access to the copy available at the moment, Councillor Windle.
I would like the copies of the submissions and the rejected ones and what was sent to state government so I can review this information.
Thank you, Councillor Windle. Do we have someone speaking against the motion? I might start by speaking against the motion. The notice asks for access to the submissions, and access, as we've just heard, is available on terms that ensure that council can meet its legal obligations. Whether councillors choose to access those submissions is a matter for them. All councillors are received that information, and you can, if you want, read the thousands of pages of submissions that were received in the planning scheme. Both councillors and council have an obligation to avoid the release of personal information, including residents' names and contact details, under the Information Privacy Act. And council has a responsibility to manage information in a secure manner. There are thousands of pages, as I said, and producing that for every individual councillor would come at a significant cost to ratepayers, which is why one version is available for inspection by any councillor. The local government principles, I think, are relevant here. They include meaningful community engagement, good governance by the local government, and ethical and legal behaviour of councillors. And our guide for councillors managing private information says that we must handle information in a way that promotes and maintains the public's trust and confidence in the integrity of councillor, respecting the privacy of individuals, and that some information must always be treated as personal and private, and that includes a person's name, address, phone number, or email address. To me, this is a matter of building trust with our community. This was a key message from the corporate plan survey that was recently done, and that had a very large response rate. Many residents have in the past found that they cannot meaningfully participate in surveys or submissions for fear of their names being publicly provided. In fact, in one case in the prior term, the details of submitters was publicly released, eroding trust within the community at Allegra. We need to ensure as a council that this does not happen again and make sure that we promote inclusion and meaningful engagement by ensuring that residents' personal details are protected. Personally, I don't think the names and addresses of submitters are relevant to the decision-making process of councillors. The substance of the submissions are what is relevant, and I believe that the conditions on access meet council's obligations under the Information Privacy Act to ensure that information is managed in a secure manner. Okay, do we have anyone else speaking for the motion? Councillor Bartley.
Thanks, Mayor. I understand what you've just stated, and I understand that's all in the Act. There is also another part in the Act that says all councillors may have access to all information, regardless of confidentiality or otherwise, privacy or otherwise. It's how they manage the information. We have an Act, and we have a Code of Conduct to act under. That's clearly articulated that we shall not divulge any confidential information, which we all abide by. So I guess there's a relevant situation here of trust in our elected representatives, and we have to have trust in them. Otherwise, we're showing a lack of transparency, in my opinion, that councillors have to have redacted copies of the submissions for starters. As we all know, with some of the information in our computers, we have access to people's personal details, but we don't use it or abuse it. It's what we do. To my opinion, the redacted copies of those submissions should almost be available to the public in demonstrating a level of transparency, because the planning scheme is a public document. Everyone can view that. How we got to that would be great to see. The submissions without names and addresses is an overview of what the community sentiment is. So in my opinion, the Act clearly states we can access information as such, non-redacted, and I think we need to be observant of that part of the Act as well.
Thank you, Councillor Bartley. Do we have anyone else speaking against?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Wantling. At the time, did you ask also for a copy of the planning scheme so you could review all that, or the draft planning scheme?
No, what I did, I just asked exactly what you've seen in the motion here. I've asked that I can review that so that I can make a informed decision, but when this comes into council.
I understood, did you also ask for a copy of the completed draft planning scheme, which has been in your pigeonhole since before Christmas, and you haven't actually picked it up either?
Your
That
point,
was at a request.
your point?
Well, I'm just asking, did you or did you not ask for that as well?
Yeah, but what has that got to do with this?
Well, the
I
document was
think
provided.
we've had a question and we've had the answer, so that's.
So I'm sorry, Doug.
I might ask a question. When you talk about needing it to make an informed decision, Councillor, we have actually made the decision on the planning scheme. So this is after the decision, is that? Yes, that's correct. Okay.
Yeah, but you realise that I did ask in a meeting a couple of times. I sent the CR in, and I've
Thank you. Anyone else speaking against the motion? Councillor Dean.
I believe that we have been provided with the full and direct access to the public submissions, and I believe that we have had that opportunity, as in we can go and review it if we like. So I don't, so I'm happy with what we've been provided with already.
Councillor Dean, anyone else speaking for the motion?
Mayor, I understand what Councillor Wantling wants by asking this notice of motion. I also agree with you that the Privacy Act would necessitate private information to be redacted, because as you rightfully point out, a person's name and address is not relevant to us making a decision on on matters. I suppose my singular issue with this notice of motion relates to section 170A(3) of the Local Government Act, which I will read out in its entirety. If the advice or information requested under subsections 1 or 2 relates to a document, the requirement under subsection 9 to comply with the request includes a requirement to provide a copy of the document. That's what's written in the Act. And I would attest that providing a copy of a document doesn't mean making it available for viewing. A copy is another copy of the document that is provided to the person, in my opinion, and that's why I have difficulties with this.
Thank you, Councillor Richters. I might just say that I have discussed this with the Local Government Association of Queensland Governance Unit, and they are clear that what has been offered by Council does comply with the Act because of the overlay of the Information Privacy Act. So I acknowledge that was my concern too, but I felt satisfied having asked those questions of people who were experts that it did comply with both those matters.
So, thanks, Mayor, but so since you just had some commentary, I would like to also respond to that then. When we had a presentation from the governance manager for LGIP here, it was confirmed during that meeting that the Information Privacy Act does not overrule the requirement of the Act to provide a copy, as it is clearly stated in the Act. So yes, the Privacy Information Act, as I have taken away from that meeting, means that information needs to be redacted to protect people's privacy. The Information Act doesn't remove requirements from the Local Government Act, and there is a requirement in there to provide a copy.
Thank you, Councillor Richters. Councillor Hustler.
Speaking against, I believe, as the officer's comments state there, that a copy has been provided with those redactions, yes, but a copy has been provided. And I also find it a little bit interesting that Councillor Wantling himself has said he hasn't actually gone and looked at them. So I find it puzzling to know how he would know what exactly has or has not been provided if they haven't been looked at. And I also agree with Councillor Bartley's comments that this comes down to a matter of trust. And I think in this room, in a moment, we're going to vote on exactly that.
Anyone else speaking for the motion? No. Anyone else against? Councillor McDonald.
Mayor, I look at this in a, from a perspective of a the 6-year councillor. I've seen a lot in my time, and confidentiality versus transparency. It's unfortunate that I have seen retribution. This is the reality of the world we live in today. I've experienced it in the last council, with councillors first-hand conducting themselves in an appalling manner. We are faced today with constant social media attacks from anonymous identities who are politically aligned. That is a concern to me. At the show I saw...
Can I ask what direction you're using that to?
A point of order.
Yeah.
What's the
What
point
section?
Sorry,
No.
Councillor McDonald, I do points of order. What is the point of order?
Can I ask where this is being directed at?
No, that's not a...
Because I've read this on social media.
It is a point of order on our standing orders. If you think it doesn't comply with the standing orders, you make a point of order on the standing order. So is there a point of order?
No, okay.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Mayor. At the show, I had a woman who was too frightened to put a name to a complaint because of a neighbour who was breaking local laws. She was concerned that there would be retribution if her name was given out or she put her name to a complaint. That to me is extremely concerning. I'm now going to go into an incident which occurred on the 19th of November 2023. It's an email to myself from a prominent individual within Stanthorpe. First of all, let me express my appreciation for your help in ensuring the proposal moved forward within SDRC. Without your support and drive, I believe our proposal would not have proceeded. Please find attached comments that I had from your fellow councillors. Now, these are people that were given information, and this is what happened to it. On the 27th of October, conversation with Councillor X. I've removed them, obviously, the identities. He advised me that we needed help regarding a letter of support. He requested that I email him documents regarding the project. They were emailed on the 31st of October 2023. He also suggested to me that I was not to talk to you, Councillor MacDonald, as you have a reputation for not following through with clients. On the 4th of November 2023, the individual then was stopped in the reject shop by Councillor Y. He stated that he'd spoken to an ELT member. He was advised that Warina Park needed to be more green. He also suggested that I should not talk to you, Councillor MacDonald, in regards to such issues. On the 9th of November, Councillor Z spoke to me. He told me that the letter of support would arrive on Friday or Monday. He made the point very clearly that I should also not talk to you, Councillor MacDonald, as it would not benefit the cause to help us. I explained to him that if it wasn't for your help, our project would have ceased. He again advised me not to involve you, Councillor MacDonald. The above are the recollections to the best of my knowledge for the conversations. Now, if somebody writes that and is concerned about 3 particular councillors and the manner in which they use information and the treatment of other councillors, i.e. retribution, then one has to look at the way in which information is handled. One needs to look at information, the Information Privacy Act 2002, SDRC Code of Conduct, PL, Charlie Sierra 052, para 6.1, confidentiality and privacy must be maintained. SDRC information has to be held in a secure environment, and you must take all reasonable and necessary precautions to maintain confidentiality and protect disclosure of any private information. Let me just say, if I have constituents and I have experienced information first-hand being used against me by other members around the chamber, and constituents are concerned about retribution, well, I think we need to handle it correctly, and we need to look at the privacy. This weekend, on Facebook, I saw the Mayor's personal details published. What a disgrace. Are people that desperate? Why are people doing this? Now, that's information that doesn't need to necessarily be out there. So I question, what are we doing with information? Are we doing the right thing or are we doing the wrong thing? That's transparency versus privacy. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor MacDonald, would you like to reply, Councillor?
Definitely. Through you, Mayor. As outlined in the officer's comments, a request for access to submissions was lodged on the 8th of December. I was initially advised that I would receive the information by the 22nd of December. On the 16th of December, I was advised that this request would require 20 working days and is now due on the 9th of January. I completely understood this, as my request was one that would require extra time by staff, and I appreciate the constraints that our staff are often under. I do acknowledge that during this time we were given a summary of the submissions, and I acknowledge the hard work that staff put into this document. But in my opinion, a summary does not represent the description of the intent of every single request and can be rather subjective. I heard nothing more until the 24th of February, when we were advised that submissions with identifying information redacted were available, and even then only through a controlled viewing process in the CEO's office. Further to that, councillors were advised that access to those submissions would require arranging a meeting through the Mayor rather than being provided directly. That is a delay of over 2 months to access information that already existed, and access that remains controlled rather than direct. Councillors' own councillor acceptable request guidelines are clear under clause 4.10. Requests for information are to be responded to within 10 business days or within 20 business days where practicable, with notice provided if that timeframe cannot be met. Further, clause 4.9 provides that councillors may request information the councillor has access to, and clause 4.11 reinforces that such information should be shared to support transparency across all councillors. Importantly, the response provided does not address all aspects of that request, including submissions not supported by officers and documentation submitted to the state government, which were specifically sought. These submissions represent the views of the community and are a critical part of the decision-making process. Without appropriate and timely access, councillors are not in a position to fully consider those views. The issue here is not whether the information exists, it is the councillors are not being given timely, complete and direct access to it, and instead are required to go through a controlled process. Under section 170 of the Local Government Act 2009, councillors are required to be adequately informed before making decisions. That obligation cannot be met where access to relevant information is delayed, restricted or incomplete. Thank you.
Going to a vote on that, those in favour? Councillors Bartley, Watling and Richters, and those against? Councillors McDonald, Haslett, Dean, Windle and Hamilton. Thank you.
Call a division on that, please, mate.
Councillor Bartley. And if someone could ask Councillor Pigeon to rejoin us for item 8.2. We have a notice of motion from Councillor Richters. Councillor Richters, you'll be moving that motion. Do we have a seconder for that?
I have a question before that, Mayor, if that's all right. About the motion itself, I just wonder about the legality, and I'd take some advice from the officers. If council closed this road, wouldn't it be up to council to open the road? Because we manage roads. The state sell off unused roads if people request them to be sold off. But I believe only council have the power to reopen this road.
Take that on notice, Councillor Bartley, as it's a legal question. Okay. Do we have a seconder? Otherwise the notice will lapse.
Just a question then regarding the question by Councillor Bartley. It's pretty hard to vote on it if we're not sure whether or not we're going to be following the correct procedure.
The intent of my question through you, Mayor, is it a legal motion, given that the state do not have the power to open that road, mate?
Thank you, Councillor Bartley, and I think if the notice is lapsing and it is coming up as said by councillors at the April meeting, we will have time to address those questions from both yourself and Councillor Windle and include them in the report that comes to council in April for consideration. Okay, moving on to item 9.1, correspondence. We have a recommendation that the report of the Chief Executive Officer in relation to correspondence be received. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor McDonald, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Haslett, thank you. Any questions or comments? Councillor Bartley?
Just one through you, Mayor. We are on correspondence, I take it.
Yes.
Item 9.1, attachment 4, and it's a letter from the Minister for Local Government, Water, Minister of Fire, Disaster Recovery and Volunteers. It's basically addressed to you, Mayor, and it indicates a change of empowering local government, and another legislation bill 2026 was passed through Parliament on the 5th of March 2026. I have a little bit of a problem with one of the dot points in there, and one of the dot points clearly articulates protect the privacy and safety of election participants by removing the requirement to publicly disclose residential addresses. And, you know, I think that's counterproductive in the fact that anyone can access the electoral roll and find anyone's private address out. That's a given. You used to be able to access those at the courthouse or the post office, but I believe you can access online to find out if you're going to vote for someone where their private address is. I'm proud of my private address. I've never tried to conceal it. I've contested 7 elections, and I've never had a problem with having my residential address as part of my election material when I did run campaigns. Some people might find it uncomfortable for various reasons to put their election address, but I, for one, believes it shows a level of transparency, shows where you live. People like to investigate who they're voting for, so it might be probably more suited to bigger local government areas, but for this one, I think everyone pretty well knows where everyone lives. If they don't, they find out pretty quick.
Yes, Mayor, I completely disagree with you, Councillor Bartley. I'm not here to put my address out there any more than any other person. I don't like a shopping list for thieves to come around and check out how many tractors I have and what implements they might want to steal. And now, at the moment, we're up against people siphoning fuel out of tractors. So do I want people who have my address and have my equipment on my register of interests, etc.? Rolling your eyes won't help, Councillor Bartley. I don't. I don't appreciate
Councillor McDonald to withdraw that. My body actions are not untoward.
I'm not
ask her to
withdrawing that.
Retract that statement.
I'm not retracting it. You can
Councillors?
take a look at it. It's completely live. I stand by my comment, sorry, Madam Mayor. I was interrupted rudely. I do not see the need for people's private details to be out there. And in the current situation with the criminal activity that we have going on within this region, I think that there are levels of privacy which need to be adhered to.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. I would say that Queensland is following a number of other jurisdictions who have done this. Certainly the evidence shows that particularly young parents of young children are far more likely to nominate for election if they don't have to disclose the family residential address. It is sadly, I think, I would like to live in communities where it was not an issue and perhaps in the past it wasn't, but sadly it does influence how many people nominate for election. And I think the more that we can do to encourage people to put their hand up, probably the better. Councillor McDonald, you've already spoken.
Different piece of correspondence.
Okay.
Is that fine?
Yeah.
Okay, in regards to item number 3, I'd just like to say I wholeheartedly endorse the Mayor's sentiments in regards to this review of the full licence. Certainly, we can't undo as a council what has been done previously. However, we certainly can support a review moving ahead. So I'd like to say I support that.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald, and I believe that the Minister has now asked for a review of that licence. So we'll look forward to see what comes from that. Okay, councillors, going to a vote on receiving the correspondence. All in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. We have no petitions this month, and moving on to portfolio reports. First portfolio report is mine, a recommendation that Council's Prosperous Communities portfolio report be received. I will move that, and do I have a seconder? Councillor Pigeon, thank you. I will take that report as read. The show season is drawing to a close. Hopefully that doesn't mean the visits from ministers start decreasing. We've really enjoyed seeing so many people in the region and being able to talk to them about issues that are of importance to our community. Other than that, will we go to the vote on that one? All in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Item 11.2, the Deputy Mayor has a report and a recommendation that Council's Liveable Communities Portfolio Report would be received. We'll move that, Councillor Windle, thank you. And a seconder, Councillor McDonald, thank you.
Yeah, once again, I'll take that report as read, but I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody's got any regarding that report. And I can only just add again that I've been in touch again with the supervisor at the Warwick Women's Work Camp, and she reiterated again what a great relationship they have with the Southern Downs Regional Council, and they're very grateful for all the assistance that they're given by our staff, which enables these women to go out there in the community and assist other organisations while they are learning new skills to transition back into society.
Thank you, Councillor Windle, and yes, certainly at the Killarney show they were very appreciative of the work done by the work camp for the Killarney show. All in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. And we have a portfolio report from Councillor Richters and a recommendation that Council's Vibrant Communities Portfolio Report be received. Councillor Richters, you'll move that.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Dean, thank you. Over to you, Councillor Richters.
Thank you, Mayor. The report, as I've circulated to councillors a number of days ago, has now been provided to Marion, so she can include it as a part of the record. But basically, we've had a number of events recently. So first of all, I'd like to speak about the outstanding success of the Apple and Grape Festival. It was a fantastic showcase of our region's horticulture and viticulture communities, and it was well attended. And I'd like to congratulate the organising committee and all the volunteers and growers and other participants of the event for again putting on a fantastic major event for our region. Following Apple and Grape very closely was the Heavy Horse Festival at Alleroa, which by all accounts also was a great success this year. And I'd just like to draw the attention of councillors in the community to the upcoming major events being Jumpers and Jazz in July and the Lee Burn Sprints.
Speak to that. Is that okay? 60 years this festival has had strong community support, bringing people together, and this time it came together more than before. To celebrate our Italian heritage, a banquetta with nearly 600 people and the Italian consul. Following that, our bubbles and brushes sitting under the backdrop of a heritage-listed town clock simping local wine while painting it in many different interpretations. Showcasing 12 local gardens, each one unique from formal to productive and everything in between. Opening their gates and sharing a piece of what makes this region so special. For the first time, I run up our local Mount Marley twice. It was completely sold out and embraced by the community. A ball with 400 people suited up to celebrate our incredible ambassadors, raising over $113,000. Now that's community. Farm to Fork, showcasing incredible food, chefs, wine grower, producers and winemakers with sold out crowds. A public grape crush with nearly 300 people, young and old, crushing over 1.5 tons of grapes. And our magnificent parade with local schools, historical associations, non-for-profits, businesses proudly showing off their floats. The Apple and Grape is our special event that brings this community together, and this year it did that bigger than ever before. To step up for over 2 years as volunteers, they stayed focused, stayed together and delivered something of this scale. It's something pretty incredible. Over 500 volunteers, record crowds, sold out events and huge economic injection right across the Southern Downs, supporting our local businesses, tourism operators, wineries, growers, producers, again non-for-profit schools and sporting groups. This event has stepped up again to a whole new level. Every single volunteer should be proud of what they've delivered for this community, and as a councillor, we should be commending them. 2 years of work, 60 years of history and over 500 volunteers that deserve that respect. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wantling. Moving to a vote on that one, all in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Item 12.1, we have a recommendation that Council note the Chief Executive Officer's status report. Do I have a mover for that one? Councillor Haslett, thank you, and a seconder, Councillor Dean. Are there any questions, comments on that one, councillors? I'll just say that I went to the Cuppa and a Chat community drop-in session at Carrara. At the hall, there were a lot of agencies there to support the community, and I had a couple of very good chats with people there. So it was a good event put on by the disaster recovery team and the LDC, and I think very similar yesterday at Dalveen as well. The Dalveen Wellness Day yesterday was very well attended. It was great to see so many agencies there supporting the community. Okay, going to a vote on that. All in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Moving on to 12.2, we have a recommendation that Council approve the grants to community policy amendments. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Haslett, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Pigeon, thank you. Do you want to speak to the motion, Councillor Haslett?
I think a lot of work has been put into these amendments by the staff involved, and I thank them for the work that they have done. I think there is probably going to be some discussion around it. I'm interested to hear what that will be, but what I see in front of me in this report is, yes, conflict of interest. It looks good to me. I think it's been well put together.
Thank you, Councillor Haslett.
I just have one question, if I could please, through you, Mayor, probably to the staff. With the information session that we had, there was a point that I made there that I felt for the lower amount of grants to the community that be split into two different terms, because a lot of small organisations don't really know what is going to happen within their organisation, 12 months in advance. It may be just something that comes up unexpectedly. I realise that may not need to be in the policy, it may go into the next step, but I just want clarification on that is being considered as well.
Through Chair, if I can ask the Director, please.
Thank you, through the Mayor. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, that is included within the guidelines. It's an operational consideration.
Thank you. Thank you, Director. Any other questions while we have the Director here? Otherwise we'll go back to... No? Okay. Councillor Richters.
May I have a number of amendments I'd like to propose? Albeit that there's 7 there, I'm not sure if maybe we want to break them into some groups or whether we want to deal with them all together. Happy to take your guidance on that.
Yeah, I think we'll do one amendment motion with, as you say, you've got one amendment motion with a number of matters included in that. Do we have a seconder for that amendment motion?
If that's the case, Mayor, then I'd like to propose that we deal with all the amendments except for 3 and 4 and do 3 and 4 separately.
So you're moving
Amendments
an
1,
amendment
5, 6 and
motion
7.
with 1, 2, 5, 6 and 7 in it.
Yeah.
Again, do we have a seconder for that amendment? Okay, that one lapses, and then you want to move an amendment motion with 3 and 4? Okay, do we have a seconder for that amendment motion? Alright, that lapses. So going back to the motion in front of us, is there anyone who wants to speak against the motion? No. Anyone else who wants to speak for the motion?
Oh, sorry, I'll speak to the motion.
Yes.
So I appreciate all of the work that has gone into the thought that has gone into this. But I think number 7, reporting, records and review at the end, I think doing all the other amendments kind of contradicts that one, because I think the Smarty grants will give us reporting records and review really well, and if we're just doing some of the other ones, then we miss out on that review, the reviewing and reporting that Smarty grants will give us, if that makes sense. So I think maybe I'm misunderstanding what your amendments are, but if we're taking Smarty grants out of the process, then I think we're missing out on a great opportunity to have the reviews done at the end of the with the events, but with Smarty grants, if that makes sense.
Sure, Meg, if I could just, I believe that we're not discussing amendments because we are not doing them. But I also made no inference on removing Smarty grants. In fact, I think that's a great initiative.
Does anyone else want to speak for or against the motion? I'll briefly say I think it's a really good step to make sure that we are providing a level playing field for all of the organisations across the region, and a lot more clarity around what they can apply for when they are eligible or ineligible, and yes, just making sure that everyone is being treated fairly, I think, is really important when it comes to community grants. Going to a vote on that, all in favour? That's Councillors McDonald, Pigeon, Haslett, Dean, Windle and Hamilton, and those against, Richters and Bartley. Okay. If someone could invite Councillor Watling back into the room. Sorry, Councillor. Okay, moving on to item 13.1. We have a recommendation that Council receive and note the financial performance report as at 28 February 2026. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Haslett, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Watling, yes, seconding, thank you. Opening that up for any questions, comments, councillors?
I've just got one. I just noticed the way the capital works information is presented this time. It appears a little bit different. Is it possible to clearly separate and report the percentage of capital projects that have been completed as distinct from those that are committed?
Yes.
Is that okay? Thank you.
Anyone else, councillors? Anyone want to speak to? No? All in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Moving on to item 13.2. We have a recommendation that Council, pursuant to section 99(1) of the Land Act 1994, advise the Department of Resources that Council does not object to the application for a permanent road closure over part of the road reserve adjacent to lot 15 on RP 15589 and lot 17 on RP 15589, subject to these parcels being amalgamated with the existing lots, so no new lots are created and no lots become landlocked. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Windle, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Dean, thank you. Okay, did you want to speak for the motion? Calling the report, thanks. Okay, does anyone want to speak against the motion? Anyone else want to speak for the motion? Okay, we'll go to a vote on that. All in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Item 13.3. We have a recommendation that Council does not object to the Department of Resources to the proposed permanent road closure application to enable the conversion of road reserve portion of the land currently subject to a permit to occupy to be freehold and offered to the adjoining landowner of lot 29 on RP 50123 for purchase, noting to the department that this no objection is provided on the basis of the following requirements: that the applicant acknowledges that they are responsible for all improvements within the permit area and Southern Downs Regional Council will not maintain those improvements, and the applicant will need to apply for a permit to authorise any improvements they have made or to undertake works in the road reserve. Do I have a mover for that one? Councillor Bartley, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Hustler, thank you. Councillor Bartley, do you want to
I think
speak
it's
to the
just a
motion?
matter of tidying up a historic use that people realised, finally come to realise that he was actually on the footpath. So it's just tidying up a little issue, and I think it's gone the right way. I don't think the person affected will have to spend too much money at all.
Councillor Bartley, does anyone want to speak against the motion? Anyone else want to speak for? No. All in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Moving on to item 14.1, we have a recommendation that council, following the tender evaluation, enter into a contract with Yeti Services Pty Ltd to undertake Fairwill Drive stormwater installations and road reconstruction, Warwick, in accordance with the schedule of rates as provided in tender RFT 26078, with a contract value of $889,031.53 excluding GST, and delegate authority to the Chief Executive Officer to enter into any variations to the contract terms as deemed necessary for the duration of the contract, and authorise additional works under the contract to deliver the project. Do we have a mover for that one? Councillor Bartley, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Windle, thank you. Councillor Bartley.
Thanks, Mayor. It's great to see this coming to fruition, given the torment that the residents in that area have suffered from stormwater flows entering their houses. I visited the site after the inundation of houses through further development occurring above them, which again, we haven't got a crystal ball to see the size pipes we should have insisted on historically. It was probably, Fairwill Drive was probably not what we'd call sequential development. It jumped ahead and then there was development in between. And I guess now we see we have to increase the size of piping and also the management of stormwater. This is just one of many that will affect us into the future, because it's happening throughout our whole community. It's happening in every direction, west, east. Glenny Heights has got issues where we never envisaged the amount of development that would occur and didn't put the infrastructure in originally. And it's just one of those things that will affect all councils, not only ours.
Okay, Councillor Bartley, does anyone want to speak against the motion? Does anyone else want to speak for the motion? Councillor Windle?
Thank you. Like Councillor Bartley, I think that both he and I have probably seen this one pop up for many, many years actually, with issues out in Fairwill Drive. So it is really great to see that this one's actually finally reached the top of the pile, I'd say, because there are, like Councillor Bartley said, there are already a lot of other improvements to be made in other areas. So we can't do them all, but we can address them as a priority, and this one has made the top of the priority list, which is great.
Yep, thank you. I'm really glad to see this happening. I think we often get asked from people what happens with my rates money, and I think that the prioritisation that is now happening in terms of those essential infrastructure maintenance and upgrades is really good to see, and I hope that over the next few years we continue to see projects coming through that not only do the groundwork of improving our infrastructure, but actually show people what their rates are being used for. And I think the Fairwill Drive one is a really visible example to the people around there of the importance of their rates being used wisely and conservatively, but making the improvements that are necessary across Warwick in terms of drainage. If we go to a vote on that, all in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Moving on to item 14.2, we have a recommendation that council notes the petition received that was properly made requesting construction of the unformed section of O'Mara's Road between Grayson's Siding Road and Claydon's Road, and endorses that no new or upgraded treatments are required at present as part of the outcome from the investigation. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Bartley, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Wantling, thank you. Okay, would you like to speak to that, Councillor Bartley?
Yes, Madam Mayor. I think the officers have made a very, very wise recommendation. I've been part of this community in that area for a long time. I've watched that road get used for various things. I've seen people ride push bikes between Mount Collery and Killarney on that track for the very experience of having that unconstructed track. People do walk it sometimes, people ride their horses live. The biggest problem is we're not sure whether it's on alignment, and the expense of just surveying it to get it on alignment would be a significant budget consideration, let alone carrying out any work to make it more trafficable. It's not just a case of improving the surface, you've got to improve the drainage that sits above the road. A lot of people don't realise it, and I advise people when you're driving along a road, if there's a cutting, you're going through a cutting, have a look at the contouring of the cutting. That all has to be done. Main roads do it, but you don't see it. They remain well grassed, and they actually drain the water away from, and that's what causes the landslides. At Queen Mary Falls is a classic example, how the gutters up above the cuttings were not maintained, and we had large land slippage. That road was closed for a significant amount of time. So if we improve it, we would have it would improve in such a way that it would be unaffordable. I think our road budget is strained, to say the least, just in trying to keep our roads where people need to use them to access their livelihood and to access centres for health reasons or otherwise. I think we need to just keep those in good order at the moment, let alone expanding our road network and maintaining another one.
Bartley, does anyone want to speak against the motion?
Mayor, I'd like to move an amendment to add an additional point number 3, and that is that the staff investigate the promotion of this road reserve as a hiking and riding trail.
Do we have a seconder to that?
Was that as a walking and hiking or as a
Hiking and riding trail.
I have a question on that one. Just Councillor Bartley mentioned that a lot of people are actually already doing that. So I think it's sort of a bit of a dual purpose track at the moment. So I'm not sure why. I know I understand what you're saying as far as tourism side of things go, but it's already been used for that.
My reason for the amendment is that we can look at how we include that in our tourism and marketing information.
Is there a seconder for Councillor? Yes, Councillor. Okay, that amendment motion is on the table. Councillor Richters, have you spoken?
I'd just like to add, Mayor, that I have spoken to members of the Killarney community now on 2 separate occasions with 2 separate people who have strongly advocated that it's their opinion and the opinion of other members of the Killarney community that they would like to see this trail being able to be used for riding and walking, albeit that they currently can because it's a road reserve, anyone can currently do it. My reason for wanting this amendment is so that our media team could look at how we include that in promotional materials so that it can be promoted as a walking and riding trail.
Thank you, Councillor.
And obviously not saying that that's the case, I'm just asking for it to be looked into.
I'll speak against the amendment motion because what you will result in here is a resolution on the books that requires staff to do that work without actually the preliminary of checking what is the impact on the staffing, what is it going to cost, does it fit, say, within the tourism strategy work that we're doing, rather than requiring them to go now and spend time investigating a single road reserve. Is it better done as part of the tourism strategy? That team, as we know, have a lot of work on their plate. I would be reluctant to force them to do this through a resolution rather than simply asking the staff what that would mean first. So I'm going to speak against that amendment here today. Not that I don't agree with the sentiment of it, Councillor Richters, but I think this is the wrong way to go about it. Does anyone else want to speak for the amendment motion?
Can I speak against the amendment motion, Mayor? I share your concerns in how we spend our money in this organisation and what surveys and what staff we get to gather that information. It all comes at a cost. They're on an hourly rate. The other thing is we should probably gather the sentiments of the landowners, the unfenced paddocks, and the impacts it'll have on them, because at this point in time, fencing doesn't come cheap. it's a horrendous cost, and if we have to then get it on alignment, start fencing roads, that'll be a financial impact. So if we're going to start carrying out surveys, better go and survey the adjoining landowners and see what they think about it. So at this point in time, I share your sentiments. We need to spend our money a little bit more wisely. It's well known. It's known as a goat track. It's commonly known as a goat track. So it's well and truly entrenched. If anyone goes to Killarney, it's promoted by Killarney, Kappa, and those organisations do that out there.
Does anyone else want to speak for or against the amendment motion?
Yeah, so I think my sentiment was that the track is maybe in the tourism strategy. I think, yeah, hearing from the other councillors, I think that there's maybe a better way of doing things. And but I do think that having small trails be put on the radar, I think is really important for our ecotourism and to expand different options for our local residents but tourists alike. But I think, yeah, the way in which we do it might be a little bit different. But, yeah, I appreciate the sentiment.
Dean, okay, I'll vote on that amendment motion.
May I just like to add, as a reply, in that obviously my amendment's not asking for a time frame for this. If the staff choose to do as part of the tourism strategy review, then that's also would be acceptable. And also I would expect Councillor Bartley that as part of the investigation they speak to the adjoining landowners and get their views on it as well.
Those in favour of the amendment? Councillors Richters and Dean, and those against? Councillors McDonald, Pigeon, Wantling, Bartley, Hyslop, Windle and Hamilton. So the amendment is not passed, and we go back to the original motion in relation to the petition. Resuming, does anyone who hasn't spoken to that want to speak for or against the motion? I'll say that I agree absolutely with Councillor Bartley that at the moment where we are sitting with the significant infrastructure maintenance and renewals that we have on the books, I think we do need to keep our focus on maintaining what we have to a level expected by the community before we start expanding the network, and on that basis this was really probably beyond what we are looking at this moment, I think, in this council. Going to a vote on that.
May I just like to say that I sympathise with the petitioners, and I just want to say I have heard this before and I understand what they're asking for, but just I cannot justify $2.5 million of ratepayers' money to build this road when we have so many other roads in our network that need that $2.5 million.
Going to a vote on that, all in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Moving on to planning matters 15.1. We have a recommendation that the application for material change of use for dual occupancy second dwelling house on land at 314 Blacksoil Lane, Bony Mountain, described as lot 113 ML 640, be approved subject to conditions. Do I have a mover for that one? Councillor McDonald, and a seconder, Councillor Richters, thank you. Do you want to speak for the motion, Councillor McDonald?
I think it's fairly clear what's there, and certainly I think we're going to see more and more of this as families, the cost of living, the cost of blocks of land, etc. Increases. You will find more and more generational groups that are actually moving on to those larger blocks and perhaps putting that second dwelling on there for dual occ. So it makes absolute sense to me. I have one house renting on my property that actually has 3 generations living in that house. It's 5 bedrooms. And I think the reality of the housing crisis and where we are, this is a very sensible move, so I'm certainly going to support it.
Councillor McDonald, does anyone want to speak against the motion? No. Does anyone else want to speak for the motion? No. Okay, going to a vote on that one, all in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. And then moving on to item 15.2, we have a recommendation that council decides to make an interim local government infrastructure plan amendment. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Richters, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Dean, thank you. I might just herald councillors, I know that a lot of the supporting information for this item was provided as confidential, and so if our discussion needs to move in that way, we might need to consider moving into confidential, but that just depends on where the debate goes here today. But okay, so would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. The new draft planning scheme is such a beast of an effort, and the planning team here, under the guidance of Di, have done an outstanding job at getting us to where we are at the moment. An updated LGIP will put us in good stead for the future, and will provide the necessary re-evaluation of some assumptions to make sure that we have the right setting when it comes to where we're going to plan and put future infrastructure. I would just like to ask a question of the director. I have just one concern around adjustment of assumptions and how that might impact on a infrastructure charges resolution proposal for the future. Is there a plan at the stage to review the infrastructure charges as a result of this LGIP amendment?
Through you. We're certainly proposing, Councillor, to bring forward the annual amended infrastructure charges resolution as part of the budget process in June. We would do that ahead of the new scheme, hopefully commencing, subject to it returning back from the state soon and this process going through. So we do watch those every year. They are, of course, set as a capped rate and indexed. So yes, we're certainly anticipating the annual review of that resolution in June.
Thanks.
Does anyone want to speak against the motion? Does anyone else want to speak for the motion? I'll speak for the motion, and you know, I appreciate what the staff have done here. You know, what's being requested by the state in expanding the priority infrastructure areas potentially comes at a cost to our ratepayers and to developers, and not a cost to the state. So I think this approach recommended, it allows us to do the further strategic planning we need to do around our growth strategy and protecting rural land before we make commitments in priority infrastructure areas that might result in a cost to council in terms of the infrastructure required there. So I think this is a really good suggestion by the staff. Going to a vote on that, all in favour? That's everyone except Councillor Bartley, and those against? Councillor Bartley. Thank you. We don't have any deputations, confidential items or general business, so I declare the meeting closed at 10:14 a.m. Thank you.